All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're cracking open one of the most influential books ever written, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. So what's the big deal? Why is this book still an absolute game changer nearly a century later? Let's find out. Carnegie starts with a real bombshell, this quote from John D. Rockefeller. Just think about that for a second. We're talking about one of the richest men in history, and he's saying the single most valuable skill, it's not finance, it's not engineering, it's the ability to deal with people. That one idea, it's the bedrock for everything else we're going to talk about. So where do we even begin? Well, we start with Carnegie's #1 most fundamental rule. He has this great analogy for it. If you want to gather honey, don't kick over the beehive. The short version, just stop criticizing people.
Now, to prove his point, Carnegie doesn't use some boring corporate example. Oh no. He gives us the story of Two Gun Crowley, one of New York's most dangerous criminals. This guy was a legit cop killer. So when he's finally cornered in a massive shootout with the police, what do you think he's thinking about himself?
This is what he actually wrote down while bullets were flying. I mean, look at that disconnect. He didn't see a monster staring back from the mirror. He saw a good guy, a kind soul who was just misunderstood, a victim.
And Crowley wasn't some weird exception. This is a pattern. Carnegie points out that Al Capone genuinely saw himself as a public benefactor. Same with Dutch Schultz. Here's the key insight. 99 times out of 100, people do not blame themselves for anything, no matter how obviously wrong they are.
And this leads us to the most important point of this whole section. Criticism is futile. It's useless. It doesn't create change. It just makes people defensive. It hurts their pride and makes them double down and justify what they did. Seriously, if Two Gun Crowley saw himself as a kind-hearted man, what hope do you have of convincing your coworker that they made a typo in an email?
So, what's the alternative? Carnegie gives us the example of Abraham Lincoln. When one of his generals messed up big time and let the enemy army get away, Lincoln was, furious. He wrote this absolutely blistering letter, tearing the guy apart. But then he never mailed it. He paused, and he thought about it. He tried to understand, not to condemn. And that right there is what separates the good from the great.
Okay, so if criticizing and condemning people is a total waste of time, then what's left? How do you actually get someone to do something? Well, Carnegie says there's really only one way to do it. You have to make the other person want to do it.
This right here is the secret sauce. You have to stop thinking about what you want. Stop talking about your needs, your company's goals, your problems. The only way, and I mean the only way, to influence anybody is to figure out what they want and frame your request in those terms.
Carnegie gives us this perfect real-world example of exactly what not to do. He breaks down this letter from some radio executive, and it's just filled with phrases like, I want this, and my company desires that. It's aggressive, it's totally self-centered, and guess what? It failed. Completely.
But now look at the rewrite. It's asking for the exact same thing, but the whole vibe is different. It's framed completely around the other person's interests. It's talking about giving them speedy, efficient service and keeping their trucks moving, you see? Just by shifting the focus from me to you change the entire dynamic from a fight to a partnership.
So we've learned not to criticize, and we've learned to focus on what the other person wants. But what about just making people like you? What's the fastest, most powerful way to do that? This is where Carnegie's advice gets so simple, it's brilliant.
It all comes down to these 3 things. And I know they sound almost too simple, right? But believe me, the power behind them is huge. You just have to become genuinely interested in other people. Smile, and for heaven's sake, remember their name.
To make this point, Carnegie tells this really sweet story about his dog, Tippy. Tippy somehow knew this deep, fundamental truth about people. You can make more friends in 2 months by being interested in them than you can in 2 years trying to get them interested in you. That dog didn't want anything. He was just purely, authentically happy to see you.
And for the power of a smile and a name, there's this great story about a cafeteria worker named Eunice who always looked completely miserable. But one day, a customer just smiled, called her by her name, and said, "Hello, Eunice," and like magic, her whole demeanor changed. She just lit up. Why? Because for the first time that day, maybe that week, someone saw her, a real person, not just a server.
And that's really the core of it. A person's name isn't just a random label. It's their identity. It's who they are. And when you use it, you're sending a powerful signal that says, I see you. You matter. It really is, just as Carnegie says, the sweetest sound they'll ever hear.
So, we've gone over 3 incredibly powerful ideas here. Don't criticize, think about what the other person wants, and remember that a smile in their name can work actual magic. But learning this stuff is one thing.
Carnegie wraps up his intro with this quote, and it's the perfect way for us to wrap up too. This isn't just about collecting interesting facts. This whole thing is an action guide. The goal isn't just to know these principles, it's to get out there and actually use them.
So I'm going to leave you with a direct question. Which one of these are you going to put into practice, like today? Are you going to bite your tongue and not send that critical email? Are you going to rephrase a request so it's all about the other person's benefit? Or maybe you'll just make a point to smile and use the name of the next person you talk to. The choice is yours.